Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into two historical accounts where the monster wasn't a myth. Oh no, it was a reality that was way more terrifying than any ghost story.
You know that feeling, right? The creature you imagine in the dark, the ghost you think you see out of the corner of your eye. We tell ourselves they're just stories, but what if they weren't?
What if those things that go bump in the night weren't just shadows, but had a very real, very physical presence?
So we're going to unpack two completely different stories from two different parts of the world, but they're linked by one bone-chilling theme: a community being haunted by a monster. First up, a demon by a lake in Uganda, and then a ghostly cannibal crew way up in the Arctic.
Okay, our first case takes us to a small village in Uganda, back in 1991. For the people who lived there, nightfall didn't just mean darkness. It meant a kind of dread that's hard to even imagine.
And this wasn't some quick scare that came and went. We're talking about 14 long years. For 14 years, this community lived in the shadow of this mysterious, deadly terror. Every single sunset was a reminder that someone might not make it to sunrise. And over that time, 83 people either vanished or were found killed. In a small village where everyone knows everyone, that number is it's catastrophic. It meant that pretty much every single family was affected by this thing.
So when people are just disappearing or their bodies are turning up, horribly mangled by the local lake, you can see why the villagers thought something supernatural was at play. They actually called the lake the butcher shop because they were convinced a demon was demanding sacrifices.
But one man, a 64-year-old elder named John, he just wasn't buying it. He lost friends, he lost neighbors, and he was absolutely convinced the answer wasn't some demon. He believed something real was killing his people, and he was determined to prove it. Now, let's jump from the heat of Africa to a totally different scene. We're going to the desolate, frozen landscape of the Arctic Circle, way back in 1848. This is a place so remote and so harsh, you'd think the environment itself was the only monster you had to fear. You would be wrong.
So picture this. A group of local Inuit hunters are out on the ice when they stumble upon something that just isn't human. They see a group of men, but they're not walking. They're crawling across the ice, almost like animals. Their eyes are sunken and hollow. Their skin has this sickly blue-black tint to it, and their faces are just blank. And then, the real horror sinks in. The hunters watch as one of the men just collapses and dies right there. His crew, they don't help, they don't mourn, they just haul his body onto a sleigh. And as the tarp lifts for a second, the hunters see that the sleigh is already full of dismembered human remains.
Now here's the part that makes absolutely no sense. The hunters later find the cruise ship. It wasn't wrecked, it wasn't stranded, it was perfectly fine, fully stocked with weapons and, get this, tons of food. So why would these men abandon a perfectly good ship to become cannibals out on the ice?
Okay, so we've got two unbelievable mysteries on our hands. A bloodthirsty demon in a lake and a ghost crew driven to total madness. It's time to pull back the curtain and see who the real monsters were.
Let's go back to John, the village elder. He gets the villagers together, they set a trap, they use fresh meat as bait to try and lure this demon out of the lake. So, after 14 years of terror, what do you think finally came out of that dark water that night?
The demon was no demon at all. It was a 16-foot-long, 2,000-pound saltwater crocodile, one of the largest ever recorded in Uganda, a literal one-ton apex predator that had been methodically hunting the people of that village for over a decade.
So what about our Arctic mystery? Well, the answer wasn't some huge creature you could see. The truth was actually invisible, hidden away for more than 130 years, locked in the bones of the dead crew members until modern science could finally figure it out.
So the crew wasn't being haunted by ghosts. They were suffering from severe lead poisoning. The chain of events is just chilling. Their canned food was sealed with lead solder, which slowly seeped into their food supply. Over months, they were slowly being poisoned, causing extreme paranoia, hallucinations, and a total breakdown of rational thought. It drove them mad, causing them to abandon their ship and turn on each other.
So what do we learn from these two accounts? I think it's that when there isn't a clear explanation, our minds fill in the gaps with demons and ghosts. But a lot of the time, the reality, whether it's a massive predator or a silent poison, is so much more frightening.
This really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? In Uganda, the myth was a demon that steals your soul. The reality, a very real one-ton predator. In the Arctic, the myth was ghosts haunting the ice. The reality, men whose minds were literally being destroyed from the inside out.
And that really is the heart of it. The scariest monsters aren't always supernatural. Sometimes they're the ones we can't even see, like a poison hidden in our food. And other times, they're hiding right there in plain sight.
It leaves you with this one last, pretty unsettling thought. In our world today, with all our science and all our technology, what dangers are we overlooking? What real-world monsters, hiding right in front of us, or lurking just out of sight, are we still just explaining away as myths?